This video will cover adding and editing appearances within the assembly environment. This may be redundant to another video on adding appearances in the part environment, as I'll start off in the part environment and then shift over to the assembly environment. So the first thing I'll do is go ahead and hide out this top. And I'm going to go ahead and open up this part. If you're working alongside this, you don't have to open up the same assembly. You can open up any assembly and all of the same things will apply. So you can see at the top level I have an appearance added, and you notice that it says blue anodized aluminum. And you'll notice that texture from the anodized aluminum. If I come to the right and click on the appearances library, you'll see quite a few stock appearances. If I go into the aluminum folder, you'll notice that option for blue anodized aluminum. So I simply drag that onto the part and shows the part level appearance. And blue anodized is the only option for anodized aluminum. But if you edit the appearance, it'll keep that texture, but you can change the color of the part if you want. You'll notice when I dragged in that appearance, it gave me this selection set. I can add this appearance only to the face, the base flange, the entire body, or the entire part. In this case, I'll choose the body. Now if I wanted to come in and change individual faces, I can do that as well. I can either drag out an appearance, or I can simply click on the face. And in this case, I'll go ahead and control select out these 4 faces, go to appearances, and we'll choose the face option. And now you see if we choose a color, it's going to apply only to those faces. I can also choose the body, and apply a color. Now you can see that entire body is green. The last option on that is a feature level appearance. So if we were to select, let's go ahead and select out this hole. We'll choose appearances once again, choose the feature, and I'll change that to light blue. And you can see that applies directly to the feature. You'll also notice that for each of these features, there's an area for appearance. And since I've only applied a separate color to a single feature, that's the only one that's showing listed. From there, if I click on that item, I can remove the appearance. I can also remove all of the appearances from the part, and that'll bring it back to the default. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back into the For You storage server, and we could see that those part level appearances now show up in the assembly. Within both the assembly and the part, there's a hierarchy of how appearances are added. If I, for example, grab the polished aluminum and drag it into the workspace, it's going to apply to the entire assembly. If I open up the display pane and scroll up, you'll see that polished aluminum item at the top. At this point, in order to get back the part level appearances, I'd have to remove out that top level appearance. And if we go into the Display Manager tab, we can take a look at the hierarchy of appearances. So you can see that there's three sort orders. There's history, alphabetical, and hierarchy. History and alphabetical tend not to be that helpful because it's hard to navigate through and figure out where each of these is applied. Whereas once we go into hierarchy, we can see at that top level we have the polished aluminum. If I wanted to remove this out, I could do that. That'll remove out the assembly hierarchy portion. Component and part are different in that the component level applies to the part within the assembly, but not into the part file itself. So to demonstrate that, I'll go ahead and add a part level, or rather a component level appearance at the top level. And you can see now that changes the color of the entire board, as it's the highest item in the hierarchy. If I open up the part, I can see that it hasn't taken that appearance, as it's only at the component level. If I were to go back into the appearances, we can see that we can apply this at both the component level or at the part level. So if I wanted to go over to the part, I can choose that selection. In this case, I'll go ahead and delete out that turquoise appearance. And then if we wanted, we could go through and take a look at where different appearances are. The main thing to gather from the hierarchy is that when you apply a appearance at a higher level, you overwrite what goes on at the lower level. So from here, if I go back into the power supply chassis, it'll make it a little bit easier to see how the hierarchy works. So those appearances that we added earlier, that gray color, is overriding this body color of the blue anodized aluminum. And we do have another appearance at the part level. This isn't showing up at all because we've overridden it in both bodies. If I were to remove out one of these, you'll notice those face appearances stay as they're still in the hierarchy, but that blue anodized aluminum, which we changed to gray, is now showing back up at the top. So you just want to keep that in mind when working with appearances, that if your appearance isn't showing up for some reason, that you might have something overriding it in the hierarchy. One thing you'll also want to take notice on the left is the Appearances tab in the display pane. You'll notice that there's an appearance in the bottom right corner and an area for the top left corner on all of these components. If we have a component level override, which we have here, that's going to be overriding whatever appearance we have at the part level. If we wanted to get rid of those, we could click on that, say remove appearance. There's also an option to remove all component appearances, and this will bring in all of the part level appearances. The last thing we'll talk about is the settings within the appearances, or the appearance options. And first I'm going to come into aluminum, and I'm going to choose the tread plate at the bottom. and I'll go ahead and apply it at the component level. It's a little bit hard to see, so I'll go ahead and change the color. And now you can see it adds that texture to the top. Before we modify that, we'll look at a few of the options within the Color Image tab. It's pretty straightforward. We can choose colors from the block here, or choose any custom color we like, as well as adding in the RGB value if we want. At the bottom you can control which display state this is shown in. I'll cover display states in another video, so you don't have to worry about that for now. We can control the mapping and are given several controls at the bottom. In this case, a spherical mapping and cylindrical mapping wouldn't really make sense, but we can choose from any of these top three, as well as changing their size. We can go further by going into the advanced options. Now in the mapping section, we can choose several options. Once again, the spherical and cylindrical don't make sense, but we could choose projection if we wanted, surface, or go with the automatic. We can also change the size of the tread plate, as well as mirror it. We can change the illumination if we want. Although these options I would generally leave alone unless you're using these to do renderings, as they're not going to make much of a difference for you in the assembly. Lastly, there's an option for surface finish. In this case, it brings in that default aluminum tread plate that we dragged in, but we could come in and change this as well. And we can also select our own file if we want to bring something in. But I'll go ahead and cancel out of that. But that's how you go about adding and editing appearances within an assembly.